So if you look at the official United Nations map, there are exactly 195 countries in the world.
Right, that's the number we're all taught.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But if you actually sit down to watch the 2026 World Cup, you are looking at a tournament drawn from 211 member states.
Which is a huge discrepancy when you actually think about it.
It really is. It means that right now there are entire nations of people operating in the real world, fielding national teams and experiencing the highs and lows of a global stage, who have been completely erased from the official paperwork we use to define our planet.
It immediately forces you to question the baseline facts you just take for granted.
Yeah.
I mean, we treat a map like a mirror reflecting reality, but it's actually a highly curated document. It reflects a specific set of political agreements, not the actual lived reality of human beings on the ground.
And that discrepancy, the
Hmm.
gap between the official map and the actual world,
Sure.
that is the foundation of our deep dive today.
It's such a fascinating starting point.
It really is. We are looking at this remarkable essay from the Sacred Return Journal by Dr. Nomasanto Netziel.
She's a sacred relationship healer, right?
Yeah, exactly. And she noticed this exact geopolitical quirk while she was watching a soccer match between Germany and Curacao. And she thought, wait, Curacao, where is that on the map?
Because it's not one of those 195 recognized countries.
Right. But she didn't just stop at geography. She used this observation to launch into just a profound critique of the systems we trust completely. Our education, our definitions of success, the labels we cling to.
It's a huge pivot, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah. Today's mission is to explore how the maps we use to navigate our lives might actually be feeding us half-truths, and why unlearning those maps could actually be the secret to true freedom. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, what's fascinating here is how Dr. Etzel breaks down that initial geography discrepancy. When she did a basic search, she found those 195 recognized countries, so that's 193 UN member states, and 2 permanent observer states. But FIFA, which operates independently of the UN, recognizes 211. And in this specific 2026 tournament, 2 of the teams playing fall squarely into the category of unrecognized states.
It's just kind of unsettling when you realize a global event is operating on an entirely different set of geopolitical rules than the ones we're taught in grade school.
Yeah, it completely implies that the world we think we know is just, one version of the story.
Totally.
So Dr. Netzel breaks this down by identifying 3 distinct layers of reality that are just operating simultaneously.
Okay, what are they?
First, there is the political world. That's the UN map. It's this rigid system based on treaties, recognition, and man-made political borders.
The official paperwork version of the world.
Exactly. Then second, you have the cultural or sports world, which is represented by FIFA. This layer acknowledges distinct cultural identities and regional realities that might not have a seat at the UN, but undeniably exist in practice.
Right, because you can literally watch them play soccer on TV.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, she points to the de facto world. These are unrecognized states that rule themselves, run their own societies, and maintain their own economies, but are completely invisible on the globe you buy at a bookstore.
I keep thinking about this, like living in a massive, sprawling house your entire life. Every hallway, every bedroom, every closet.
Right.
And then one day, you look at the actual architectural blueprints and realize the architect just omitted an entire hidden wing.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, and the wing is physically there. People are living in it, breathing, cooking meals.
Yeah.
But because it's not inked onto the official blueprint, the governing authority's stance is that the wing simply doesn't exist.
That captures the danger of relying entirely on the blueprint so perfectly. I mean, if you only navigate by the official documents, you are blind to a massive portion of reality.
Which leads to a really profound realization for her.
Yeah, she uses a phrase in her native language that translates loosely to, "We have been played."
Wow. We have been played.
Right. And the implication there is massive. If the literal map of the world is just a curated version accepted by a specific committee, what else is missing from our curriculum?
And she takes that question and applies it directly to the curriculum of our own lives. Which brings us to her sister, Ntombo.
The contrast between these 2 women is really the core of the whole essay.
It is, because Dr. Netzel is a doctor. She is highly educated, an A student, someone who fully mastered the official map of success.
The blueprint, essentially.
Exactly. But Ntombo, on the other hand, dropped out of school immediately after primary school. She is about to turn 50, and she completely rejected the academic blueprint from day one.
And in the framework of our society's official map, Ntombo is immediately categorized. I mean, the system labels someone who drops out that early as slow or assumes they are just destined to amount to nothing.
Right.
The curriculum is designed to filter people out, and Ntombo was filtered out almost immediately.
I have to pause here, though, because I think any rational listener is going to look at that and think, well, wait. Society usually tells us that dropping out of school at age 12 leads to a life of massive struggle.
Oh, absolutely.
We are taught from day one
Mm.
that education is the only reliable ladder out of poverty.
Mhm.
Hardship, marginalization, being perpetually left behind that is the statistical reality we associate with abandoning education.
Right.
So how does the author reconcile that grim expectation with what she actually observes in her sister's life?
Well, Dr. Nentzel offers this radical reframing of what education actually does to the human psyche. Looking back at her own life as a high achiever, she realizes that the school system doesn't just teach you math or history.
What does it do?
It functions as an obedience training ground. It literally cages you. Her argument is that the A students, the ones we celebrate as the most intelligent, are frequently just the individuals most susceptible to programming. Yeah, they're the best at looking at a rubric, internalizing a set of external rules, and then altering their behavior to secure validation from an authority figure.
They are the best at memorizing the blueprint, basically, even if the blueprint is fundamentally flawed.
Exactly. And because they are so good at securing that external validation, they become addicted to it.
That makes so much sense.
The mechanism of grading conditions a student to tie their inherent self-worth to a metric provided by someone else. So when they graduate, that conditioning doesn't just disappear, it transfers.
Right, it shifts from the classroom to the real world.
Instead of chasing an A from a teacher, they chase a performance review from a boss, or a mortgage approval from a bank, or, likes on a social media post. They are easily manipulated because they are absolutely terrified of failing the rubric.
Which means Ntombo's early exit from the system was actually her liberation.
Yes.
Because she was cast out by society so early on, she never internalized the rubric in the first place.
She was freed from the cage before she even really realized it was a cage. Ntombo lives with no fear and no favor to ask of anyone. She doesn't need to conform to society's standards of success because society already decided she doesn't fit the mold.
It's like she bypassed the entire game.
Exactly.
Oh.
The intelligent people are walking around under constant, crushing stress to validate their worth according to the world's standards. Ntombo is entirely free of that psychological weight.
Let's examine that psychological weight for a second, because I think everyone listening, right, you can feel that exact tension in their own lives.
Oh, without a doubt.
We do everything by the book. We get the grades, we secure the degree, we land the job. And what is the actual reward for all that obedience?
Exhaustion, usually.
Yes. We end up acquiring massive debt that we dress up as assets, the 30-year mortgage, the finance car, the student loans. We essentially purchase our own cages just to prove to the system that we belong in it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is the ultimate trap of modern life. It's the not good enough loop.
The not good enough loop.
Yeah. Even after all those earthly acquisitions, after following every single rule on the map, you still find yourself having to acquire more just to be more. It is an endless cycle of trying to synthesize self-worth through external validation. The system is designed so that you never actually arrive.
And the author points out a perfect modern example of this. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there is this global panic that we all need to learn AI skills.
Yeah.
Because someone, somewhere, declared that's the new direction of the world.
Right, the new mandatory update.
Exactly. And without even questioning if it serves our actual lives, we just throw ourselves into it. We listen to the podcasts, we buy the courses, just completely terrified of becoming obsolete.
It's exhausting.
It really is. It feels like our lives are a piece of hardware, and society forces us to download these massive operating system updates that we didn't even ask for. And the update just drains our battery in the background, making it harder to simply function.
That's because the fear of obsolescence is a very powerful tool for control. If you are constantly terrified of being left behind by the current trend, you will never stop running.
You'll never get a moment's peace.
Right. You will never have the quiet space to figure out who you actually are outside of your utility to the marketplace.
Now contrast that frantic, battery-draining panic with Ntombo's reality. The author tells this amazing story about Ntombo's boss asking her what she thought about the status quo, regarding the immigrant issues currently happening in South Africa.
Yeah, and Ntambo's response is incredibly revealing. She told her boss she simply didn't know. She wasn't even aware those political tensions were happening in the very world she occupies.
To a highly educated, news-obsessed person, that level of unawareness sounds almost irresponsible.
Right, people would be appalled.
They would. But Ntambo isn't on social media. She barely watches television. She prefers just interacting with the people physically in front of her and telling stories.
Yeah.
She doesn't participate in the manufactured outrage or the 24-hour news cycle.
She opted out entirely.
I want you, the listener, to just think about the sheer bone-deep exhaustion of just trying to keep up with the world today. The emotional toll of having an opinion on every global crisis, every political shifting of the wind. There is an undeniable appeal to Ntambo's joy of missing out.
It is a profound level of JOMO. She is completely untethering from the collective anxiety of the culture. And the energy Ntambo saves by not participating in the outrage cycle is energy she gets to spend on her actual immediate life.
That's a great way to look at it.
But Dr. Nansel makes a crucial point here. Ntambo's state of being isn't just about, ignorance being bliss. It is a masterclass in radical embodiment.
Okay, radical embodiment is a term that gets thrown around a lot in wellness spaces, but it rarely gets defined clearly.
True.
What does the author actually mean when she applies it to her sister? Because the extended family looks at Ntambo and sees a failure. They view her lack of societal progress as an embarrassment.
Well, the extended family is still judging Ntambo using the official map. But Dr. Nansel looks at her sister and literally calls her a god in real life.
A god in real life. That is high praise.
It is. When we talk about radical embodiment in this context, we are talking about a complete lack of fragmentation. Most of us fragment ourselves to survive in society. We curate a professional persona for work, a sanitized persona for our extended family, and we hide the messy, dark, or complicated parts of ourselves because the rubric tells us those parts are unacceptable.
We split ourselves into pieces.
Right. Ntambo does none of that. She wears her dark side just as openly as she wears her light. She hides nothing because she has nothing to prove to anyone. She is entirely integrated.
And that integration has a physical manifestation too, which is where the essay ventures into territory that I really want to scrutinize.
Oh, the health aspect.
Yes. The author mentions that Ntambo was diagnosed with terrible diseases, yet she takes no medication, refuses to wear the medical labels the world tries to stick on her, and literally laughs them off.
Yeah.
The author says these diseases, quote, see nothing with her, and Ntambo looks at photos of herself and jokes, we look like cartoon dolls.
It's such a striking image. Ntambo's playfulness in the face of serious diagnoses is just so jarring for someone conditioned by the medical system.
Wait, we have to be incredibly careful here. Is the author actually suggesting we ignore serious medical diagnoses?
I know, it sounds...
Because to a rational listener, claiming that someone can just laugh off a terrible disease and take no medication, that sounds dangerously close to endorsing medical delusion or pseudoscience.
Yeah, that is a vital distinction to make, and it requires looking at the deeper philosophical point Dr. Nansel is making, rather than taking it as literal medical advice.
Okay, unpack that for us.
The author is not prescribing a rejection of science. She is highlighting the psychological danger of letting a diagnosis become your entire identity. In our culture, when someone receives a chronic diagnosis, the medical label often swallows them whole. They become the disease.
Right, they identify completely as a sick person.
Exactly. And the stress, the fear, and the hyperfixation on the label often exacerbate the physical suffering. What Ntambo is doing is rejecting the identity of the sick person.
She's refusing to let the label define her reality. Like the disease might exist in her body, but she refuses to grant it authority over her spirit.
Exactly the point. She is looking at the fragility of the human body, the fact that we are all, in a way, just fragile cartoon dolls moving through the world and choosing to find humor in it rather than terror.
Wow.
By not attaching her ego to the medical label, she removes the psychological weight of the illness. The disease sees nothing with her because there is literally no fear for the disease to latch onto.
That reframing changes the entire dynamic. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing which reality you empower.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that brings us to the practical application of all this. Dr. Nansel doesn't just present her sister as a case study. She provides a specific, confronting exercise that she uses with her own clients.
Yeah, these are usually women who come to her suffering from deep exhaustion and self-abandonment because they've spent decades trying to fit into the world's map.
It is an exercise designed to strip away the scaffolding of your life and see what is actually holding you up.
Hmm.
She tells her clients, tonight, as you lay in bed, right before you close your eyes to sleep, ask yourself this question.
It's a tough one.
It is, she says, ask. If I'm not my titles, my labels, the hats I wear, WHOMMI.
It sounds so simple until you actually try to answer it in the dark.
Right.
If you strip away the job title you worked a decade to earn, the societal status of your zip code, your academic degrees, or even the role of being a manager or a provider, what remains? If you remove the blueprint, who is the person actually standing in the house?
I'll admit that question is terrifying. Because for most of us, those labels aren't just hats we wear, they are the very foundation of our identity.
Absolutely.
And this is where I find myself wrestling with the practical reality of Dr. Nitzel's premise. We need some of these labels to function, don't we?
Well, yes and no.
Because I can't just wake up tomorrow, forget I have a job, ignore the fact that I'm a parent, and stop paying my mortgage. We can't all just drop out of society and ignore the news completely. How do we apply this wisdom without simply blowing up the lives we've built?
That tension right there is the hardest part of this entire philosophy. How do you live in the world without being of the world?
Yeah.
The nuance here lies in the difference between participation and attachment. Dr. Netzel isn't advocating for you to abandon your family, quit your job, or become a hermit.
Okay, good.
She is asking you to recognize that the things stressing you out, the metrics making you feel perpetually not good enough, are just versions of reality that a system taught you to prioritize.
It's the difference between doing a job because it provides for your family and believing your fundamental worth as a human soul is dictated by your performance review.
Exactly. It is entirely about attachment. You can still hold the job, you can still participate in the economy, but you do so with the awareness that these are arbitrary rules. It's about personal sovereignty.
Taking back your own power.
Right. It's asking yourself, until when are we going to be dictated to as how to be? The systems and empires that drew the official map knew exactly what they were doing. They designed the curriculum to create obedient, anxious contributors.
Wow.
When you recognize the game, you can still play it, but you stop letting the score determine your value.
You stop letting the labels dictate your inherent worth. You realize the map doesn't show the whole world, and the curriculum doesn't define your whole mind.
You begin to navigate by an internal compass rather than external approval. You integrate the parts of yourself the world told you to hide, just like Ntombo.
Yeah.
You achieve embodiment by realizing that you are a complete worthy person before you ever achieve a single thing on society's checklist.
The through line of this entire discussion is incredibly powerful. We started by looking at a literal map and realizing that entire countries, millions of people are missing from the official UN documentation, yet they exist fully and vibrantly in the real world.
Yeah.
In the exact same way, there are entire versions of ourselves, our truest, most joyful, most unburdened versions that are missing from the official curriculum of society.
Ntombo is the human equivalent of the de facto world. She is unrecognized by the official authorities of success. She lacks the proper paperwork, but she is completely self-governing, intensely alive, and remarkably real.
She really is.
Being labeled uneducated or unsuccessful by a system designed to cage you might actually be the greatest advantage you could ever ask for.
It fundamentally rewrites the definition of failure. I mean, we spend so much of our limited time on this earth exhausting ourselves to get an A in a class we never even asked to take. We drain our batteries downloading updates for a machine we didn't build.
And the moment you realize you can just step out of the classroom, the exhaustion begins to lift. You are allowed to be a fragile cartoon doll navigating a complex world without needing to prove your right to exist.
To wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a lingering thought, something to chew on as you go about the rest of your day, interacting with your bosses, your bank accounts, and your social media feeds.
It's a great question to reflect on.
We started by acknowledging that the definition of the world is just an arbitrary list of 195 countries decided on by a committee behind closed doors. If that fundamental fact about the globe is just an arbitrary rule, what else is?
Right.
What other undisputed facts about your daily routine, your career trajectory, or your personal worth are just arbitrary rules you've accepted without ever demanding proof? What would actually happen if you woke up tomorrow, looked around at the life you've built, and just, stopped recognizing the map?